starts in our homes, beloved brother. We must do that. And if we don't do that, but you see what we reap in majority? The children gone astray, the alien cultures, and that thing, brother, that cannot, brother, it's not too far gone, beloved, because I know a lot of people still, brother, still do that. Include,
Okay.
I'm not grand self-grandization, but I done that, brother. With my children, I have 6 of them, and grandchildren, even up to this day. My youngest child is 26 years old, brother. And when some people think they say, oh, I got to ask Pops, about this, and they're
Okay.
not sure, beloved. So, brother, we must do that, man. We must return to our Africanness, and the village must take care of all of our children. And Pan-Africanism is our only solution. Not Christianity, not Islam, not Judaism, no religion at all gonna save us, but Pan-Africanism. But our parents, elders, all of us got to take care of all of our children. I continue to listen. Pan-Africanism our perish. Well, no.
Okay. Thank you. We we have to admire to some extent our brother's commitment to Pan Africanism. The other day I asked him to explain what he meant by Pan Africanism. I don't think he did justice to the term, but he has been preaching that message for years. Now, what Nago just did essentially was to call on parents to take the lead in ensuring that children have African images in the homes and in the schools, and then they're taught about their Africanness and so on. But he has to recognize, and we have to admit, that parents, by and large, are themselves delinquent in this respect. Many parents are themselves ignorant, utterly uninterested in things black, in things African. And some would argue that legitimately so, that their concern is to ensure that they can survive, that they have a job, and that they can put food on the children's table, or put food on the table for themselves and their children, that their concern is to ensure that they can meet their monthly commitments and so on, and that to expect them to find time to devote to these things would be an unnecessary distraction and aberration even. So although it's a noble idea that parents do these things and that they introduce their children from early o'clock to their history and its various facets and aspects, the fact of the matter is that current generation of parents are themselves woefully incapable of offering that kind of parentage. When we realize that a lot of our parents became parents while they were yet teenagers, they were still mentally and in some cases physically, certainly emotionally unprepared for parenthood, then you ask yourself, is it really realistic? Is it realistic to expect our children to be any different? Because all the research in the world suggests that children born to persons of that particular age group, they tend to fare much worse in almost every aspect of life. All the indicators that we use to measure young people, to predict their behavior, to measure their success and so on, suggests that children born to youngsters before the age of 19 and in certain conditions, certain socioeconomic conditions, it is only natural and fair to expect them to undergo and experience certain negative trends and behaviors. So the problem would be, in my view, to teach in schools what it means to be a parent. I have been arguing this for years. I've written about it. I have devoted a couple of chapters in my book, my second book, to the question of the need to introduce parenting in schools. I believe that it is vitally critical that young people during their formative years understand what it means to be a parent. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. Let's take this caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Franklin Candid.
cut up again, brother. Brother, you just made a statement there that was very, very erroneous. Because, brother, when you asked me about Pan-Africanism, I explained it to you and I told you in a nutshell. And I told you, if give me some time, I tell you, name it, give me the date, thing and everything, and I will explain it to you in a more expansive way. You never get back to me, brother. And brother, let me correct you too. You saying you want to tell me you have children. All of us have children. You got to give something up, beloved brother. So this flimsy excuse that you come up with, or they have to, and everybody got to make a living. Whether if you don't work, even you work for yourself. You have to eat, put food on the table, work for your head, clothes on your back, shoes on your feet. But brother, let me tell you something, right? When I came to the US, talking about me, I could have had 3 jobs, beloved brother. But you know what happened? I would not educate my children at home enough. And I gave up that. I could have been better off financially. I mean, I'm not no thing person. I mean, like as an African person, most of Africans is struggling financially. But brother, I gave up that. And brother, don't come in no flimsy excuse that this and that. Brother, our children must come first and foremost for the advancement of African people globally, brother. So don't come in that flimsy excuse that, oh, you got to do this. Brother, you got to give up something in order to get something. Brother, and our children must be first and foremost. Continue to listen, brother. So don't come in no excuses, brother. If you're a true African, you do whatever it takes, brother, for the advancement of our children and the African race globally, my beloved. Thanks again for hearing me. Continue to listen.
Yes, and because Nabo says it's a flimsy excuse does not make it a flimsy excuse. Let me emphasize that. Because Nabo deems what I said to be a flimsy excuse does not make it a flimsy excuse. And I repeat, I do not believe that he properly explained what Pan-Africanism is when he was asked the other day. And I repeat, there are a number of parents who would say, and in some cases it's a legitimate response, that because of their concern, because of their obsession with meeting daily needs, they really don't have interest or time to engage in other activities. No one is saying that they're correct. No one is saying that that's the way to go, that that's their kind of thinking to adopt. No one is saying that. But it is one of the reasons, one of the excuses, if you wish, that some parents, and I've spent all my life interacting with parents, have advanced when the matter is raised with them. So if anyone wants to tell those parents, that's a flimsy excuse, you're supposed to take time, then they also have to deal with the question that those parents raise: how do I meet the daily needs of my children? How do I meet their physiological needs, their physical needs, their emotional needs, their social needs, their educational needs? How do I meet them if I am not mentally, emotionally comfortable by virtue of my socio-economic circumstances? And their excuse cannot be dismissed as flimsy because one man says so. Let's just make that clear. We have another caller? Okay. Right. Now, I was saying, and I repeat, that I think there's a need for parenting in schools. Now, of course, when we speak of parenting in schools, one would have to sit down and sensibly and deliberately determine what would be the content of the curricula dealing with parenting. Because parenting would involve a whole range of topics and subtopics. But I believe that if we're going to prepare young people, if we're going to prepare children, not only for the world of work, which is the duty of the formal school system, but we're also preparing them for the world of adulthood. And we are preparing them for the world of parenting. Now, we know that when students leave school, when children leave school at the 4th form, 5th form, 6th form level, they're going to do multiple jobs. I mean, you can name what? 100 different vocations, careers, callings, professions, and occupations that they will get themselves involved in. A lot of them, all of them are going to become adults. Barring death, they will all become adults. And in fact, one spends most of his life, much more of his life as an adult than he does as a child. Everybody recognizes that. But a lot of them, the vast majority of them, I dare say, will become parents. Some of them are going to become parents multiple times. And some of them are going to become parents at young ages. And so, if we are preparing our students for the world of work and for the world of adulthood, shouldn't we also be preparing them for the world of parenting? The world of parenthood? But I don't believe that we do that in any deliberate or meaningful way in our formal school system, and I believe that it's about time that this construct called parenting, where the details, the dynamics, the demands of what it means to be a parent are taught from grade 3 in primary school right up to 5th form. If necessary, the relevant examining bodies can construct some kind of measurement, some kind of test, if you wish, which would gauge the level of mastery of the concepts of parenting that the students would have gleaned over the years of their being exposed to that type of education. But I believe a lot of parents fail, not because they are inherently unable to be good parents, but because they really don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the knowledge. They do not know what it is, what it means, what it takes to be a good parent. And one cannot teach what he does not know, nor can one lead to where he does not go. So inasmuch as some persons really would like to be the best parent possible, now there are some who couldn't care less. They're not living because they have any real purpose to live. They're living because they're not dead. But I believe that a lot of our parents, young or not so young, would really desire to be good parents, much better parents than they are, but they really don't know what to do. What should they say? What should they, what behavior should they model? How should they discipline? What morals should they be modeling? How should they treat a particular reaction on the part of their children? How should they guide in a particular area? What is their role in terms of education and spirituality? How do they get their children to be involved in things that develop the children mentally, physically, socially, and emotionally? They don't know. And so I believe that if children are exposed to this information in a structured, formal way, the way we teach all those other multiple subjects in school at the moment, I believe that if they don't retain all of it, they certainly will retain enough of it to make them much better parents than they otherwise would be. Because, children tend to close their ears to advice, but they open their eyes to example. So if we show them the example by the way we ourselves, we as adults, we as their parents live, and we combine that with the formal instruction, I believe that a lot of them would imbibe enough of the information to be better parents. And of course, better parents will produce better children, which will lead to a better society and ultimately to a better world. And again, if one were to do the necessary research and investigate this phenomenon, I'm sure that one would find that for those persons who are considered successful, that is to say, in a manner that takes into account compassion for others, care for the earth, and so on. We're not talking about those who make millions of dollars, who are greedy, and who are selfish and narcissistic, and we call that success. No, we're talking about those who would have understood that their function and their role, their purpose in life is to help others, is to share, is to care for the earth, is to serve the Christ, is to serve God. Those who understand that their aim is to, their purpose and aim in life should be to leave the world a better place, to make a difference in somebody's life. That's success in my view. that the individuals who achieve that level of success, they would have had the benefit of proper parenting by and large. Not in every case, of course, because nothing, I don't think, I cannot think of one statement we can make that applies to every single human being, except that he needs air, oxygen to breathe, to live, and he needs food to eat and water to drink. But even those, of course, can vary in quality and quantity. But there's nothing else that we can say that applies to every Munamba guy. All right? But I believe that generally, those persons whom we can identify as true success stories, and I have challenged the school system to determine, to set for itself, how do you measure what is a successful school? How do we know when the education system has been successful? And we are beginning to realize long time now that, to say a student, look, he got 10 subjects, look, he got 25, look, he got 8 grade 1s, that is success. To me, that is a very minor part of a very minor ingredient in the basket of success. So the challenge for the education system, and we're going to have a representative from the education system here on the show sooner than later, is to set for itself who or what is a successful student. What is a successful school? How does the education system define and measure success? And then the delivery of education, the content of education will be geared towards achieving that success. I am not so sure if at the moment the Ministry of Education, the education system in St. Kitts and Nevis, has a predetermined set of indicators that would determine whether a school is successful or not. All right? Because for too long we've been hearing about success, so-called success, measured by the number of passes a school obtains, right? So that this school wants to get 90% pass, a 90% pass rate, and this one wants to get a 99% pass rate, and so on. Okay? Some of us don't even realize that when a school says it got a 100% pass rate in a particular subject, only 2 students entered in that particular subject. 2 students wrote French, or 2 students did agricultural science, and both of them passed, and that's 100%. And so we say, wow, the school is great. Okay? Not realizing that 10 other students would have been denied the opportunity to write that subject because they were not seen as having the potential to pass. And so the school would have failed those students to a large extent. But yet we say the school is successful because they got 100% pass in a particular subject area. So we have to begin to define or redefine what we mean by success. And I believe that one of the things, one of the ingredients, one of the yardstick we must use is to what extent students understand what it means to be a parent. So by the time they leave school, at 15, 16, 17, they will not only understand clearly what it means to be a parent, but having understood what parenting entails, they would choose to delay becoming a parent. So we won't have 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds becoming parent as often as we now witness. Because the students would have been exposed to what parenting is, what it entails, they would make a conscious decision. Hey, boy, I didn't realize that parenting involves all of this. I thought it was just bam, bam, bam. Nothing at all. So because I understand this thing now, I am not going to be a parent until I have established myself in a certain way, either socially, economically, educationally, and so on. And so we would see a delay in the early onset of pregnancy, because a lot of us, of course, for the years we have decried the high levels, the high rates of teenage pregnancy. So the students would make a decision to delay pregnancy, to delay becoming mothers and fathers. And when they do, which will be at later ages, they would know what it means to actually execute the role of a parent. So they will be better parents, which means their children would be better children, all right? And that would lead to lower levels of aggression, lower levels of crime, lower levels of selfishness, lower levels of impatience and intolerance, and higher levels of understanding of their role in society, of who they are, where they came from, where they're heading, how to treat others, including so-called minority groups, those who are different, those who seem to be different from them in terms of whether it's the way people dress or speak or look. I believe there are multiple benefits to be derived from introducing parenting in schools. And I believe that is one way we can facilitate greater emancipation of self, greater awareness of our history, and understand better what our role in society is. We are going to pause now for a station break and come right back. The lines are still open. You can call us here on Frank and Candid and share with us your views. Thank you for listening for the time being.
ZIZ Radio, entertaining the nation, enjoyed by the world.
Hi, I'm Desi Brown.
And I am Danisha Henry.
Along with Jeremy Burke, would like you to join us this Thursday for Engaged.
Streaming live on ZIZ TV and ZIZ Facebook page
at 8 p.m. It's a youthful edutainment series talking hot topics
and bringing you fun and entertaining activities
to keep you engaged.
8 p.m.
this Thursday.
The symptoms of the coronavirus are similar to those of the common flu or cold, which are consistent coughing and sneezing, fever that does not go away, and difficulty breathing. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms, it is advisable to stay at home until you recover, or if you want to go to your doctor, call first and tell your doctor of your symptoms, any recent travel or contact with travelers. And lastly, please avoid spitting in public. Recent cases have shown that people most likely to be at risk if they contract the virus are persons over age 60 and persons that have an underlying medical condition such as hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, or a respiratory condition. It is advisable to avoid large crowds or other places where you might have to come in contact with people who are showing signs of the coronavirus. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA.
Cathy's restaurant is now open on the Frigate Bay Strip Thursday to Sunday from 5 in the afternoon. And when in the Bastia area, visit Cathy's Snacket on Central Kibo Avenue in McKnight. Open daily at 12 noon for lunch and quick bites. Call Cathy's Snacket on Central Kibo Avenue in McKnight at 665-0561. Cathy's Snacket serves local dishes such as stewed mutton and pork, fried fish, baked and barbecue chicken, seasoned rice and mashed potatoes, local drinks and quick bites such as burgers, fries, and much more. Call Cathy's Snacket at 665-0561 to order.
As you settle into the new normal, it's time to get your customers back. Let them know that you're still in business. During the closure, many of your customers found other places to shop, places with competitive prices, smiling store clerks, and great customer service. It's the new normal, and advertising your business is critical. Call the ZIZ Advertising Department for a solution to bring your customers back home and new ones to your business. At ZIZ, we have guided local businesses to solid ground during challenging times. Let us show you how. Call 465-2621. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Frank and Candid. Remember, you're free to call in today and share your views on any particular matter. It's an open line, as it were. We won't have that again for this week because tomorrow and Friday we have special guests to talk with us on very important matters. But you're free to call in today and discuss whatever your experiences or ideas are. Just remember to keep it clean and keep it limit to 2 minutes maximum. All right, we appreciate that very much. Maximum 2 minutes to keep it clean. Yes, caller, good morning.
Greetings, Mr. Blake.
Yes, sir.
Greetings to the audience. My question to you: How would you know, I agree with you with the proper parenting, because all the learning must amount into something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you must make it to be somebody. Make it to be somebody. Right? But my question is, how would an agenda like that, making somebody to be this godlike person, right?
Mm-hmm.
For want of a better term.
Godlike.
How would that fit into an agenda that wishes human beings to become like robots or slaves? How would that? How? Because when we look at the present trend that we're going on in terms of world development,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? It's like putting more into education to make the human being better for the world at large. When the world at large is changing to make the human being into a slave or a robot, I mean, like, how? I mean, shouldn't the education balance out with the times in which we live in, so as to make one able to survive, even independent of the system? I'll listen after you, okay?
Okay. If anyone else, yes, take another caller. We'll come back to that in a while. Hello, caller.
Hello, morning.
Good morning to you.
I could ask you a question, please.
Of course.
Yeah, you're born in St. Kitts?
Absolutely.
Okay. You know the color of our flag before independence?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Do you know that these children that in school about the flag, what year it went down, and before we come to independence, you know, they teach it in school?
Well, I know that they teach about the current flag. I'm not sure if much is taught about the former flag. They
teach about the independent flag, this
yes,
one right now.
Right.
I think they need to teach the children them in school about the flag before and the colors in it.
The green, the gold, the blue.
Green, yellow, and blue. That was the statehood flag.
Yes. Right,
Yes,
the statehood
green,
flag.
yellow, and blue.
Right.
And the reason why I say it, who knows? One of the times they might have to come and history teacher, and you have to go back something, you have to teach the children about where we come from and where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because here you go in Ireland, the Danish buy this island in the 18th century, and up to today they still teach the children in school about it, and they still use the flag. They use the flag, the Danish flag, and they still use the British flag. So I want to let them teach these children in school about it. Because up to when the Christina thing, I think he was flying the flag green, yellow, and blue.
Yeah, we flew that flag until 1983.
Eh?
We flew that flag until 1983.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. But why I don't know if they could use the two flags still, they use them now. This is where we was and this is where we are today, because after them don't know the history, you know. And after these children, they just know about independence, because some of them born in the 80s and they don't know gone back where we come from, like the flag and the national anthem, and so who knows? This is thing they need to teach the children in school. If they become a history teacher about St. Kitts Navy, this is some of the things they're going to have to teach the youth them. So I don't know if they do it, and if they don't, I hope they start to, because it's very important. A lot of them only know about independence, the colors in the flag, and what it stands for, but we don't know about statehood, where we come from. You understand what I'm saying?
Thank you, definitely.
Thank you. That's my 2 cents for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. In other words, we don't know, the lady is suggesting that we don't know, the students don't know enough about our pre-independence history. Our pre-independence history, students don't know much about it, and that's a shame. That's why we talk so much for years now about ensuring that our current generation of young people become more aware of what their history entails. But certainly, it is not possible for us to be flying the statehood flag and our independence flag at the same time. But nothing is wrong, of course, with students knowing about the green, the gold, and yellow, and the blue with the maple plant in the center of the gold and yellow, 3 vertical stripes of equal size, and I remember as a student in Bastia Boys School, that every state today, we would have some poetry and so on with respect to the flag, the green, the gold and yellow and the blue, okay? And if I am not mistaken, the significance of the colors of the state flag, certainly with respect to the green and the yellow, which have been replicated in the independence flag, they mean the same thing. We don't have any blue in our independence flag, but the green and the yellow, the gold and yellow, they have been repeated in our independence flag, and their historical significance remains the same. Now, the caller before asked a question which I was trying to wrap my head around, that we need to educate our children for times like these in which we live. And he spoke about education being designed to create godlike persons, and that translates into robots and slaves. I'm not sure if I understood that's where he was coming from or going. But personally, I have absolutely no problem with children being taught in a manner that results in their being godlike. Godlike in the sense that they exhibit some of the qualities that we associate with God, some of the values that we identify as being flowing from God himself. In other words, truth, being truthful, honest, patient, compassionate, forgiving, helpful, and so on. A godlike person would be demonstrating those traits. A godlike person would not be hating and killing and cheating and stealing and so on. So nothing is wrong with that in my view. In fact, that's why we have big problems in the world today, because too many people are exhibiting ungodly or ungodlike traits and behaviors. Now, I cannot understand. To me, it's almost a contradiction that an education should turn an individual into a robot or slaves, because education, by definition, if not by practice, is supposed to be a liberating exercise and experience. Education is supposed to make one free to think. It is supposed to enable him to engage in thinking critically, rationally, analytically, and even deductively. It is supposed to enable an individual to better understand his environment and his role in it. So education should not be leading to people being slaves or robots, but quite the opposite, right? Enabling them to make their own decisions, empowering them to arrive at conclusions after reasoned discussions, and education is supposed to encourage people to engage in introspection, in self-reflection, self-examination, with a view to change in behaviors, because education eventually is supposed to lead to the acquiring of new knowledge is supposed to lead one to engage in new behavior. And so we speak of that individual as being educated, not because he would have been to university and obtained 10 degrees. Let's take this caller. Good morning.
Good morning again, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we're using the flag, the more the flag already come down, they need to move that name off the prison, because since we got independent, I remember a little girl, when the Queen come into England, up to St. Kitts, had to go by the church and waving the flag. So we ain't waving the flag no more. I think the name need to move off the prison and give it the next name. Bye.
Okay, I guess she means Her Majesty's Prison. Well, I wonder if she's familiar with the oath that our ministers take. Because a number of things we will have to change. We still have a number of vestiges of colonialism. We still have a number of symbols that relate directly to our former colonial masters and so on. So a number of things we'll have to change, including, very importantly, what we had Colungi and others discussing in a couple of days and weeks ago, including changing names of streets and of buildings and of sites and so on, because a lot of these speak to honoring persons who really hated us as black people and treated our ancestors, our enslaved ancestors, as chattel, as property, as animals, or as non-human beings. So a lot of things will have to change, all right? As Kalandi himself was suggesting, we change the name of St. Kitts. We change the name of St. Kitts. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, to change the name of St. Kitts is not a far-fetched idea. There are a number of countries, and this is not really a history lesson, although it should be, and maybe could be, or it could be and perhaps should be. A number of countries around the world have changed their names over time. Many of them at independence. For example, a lot of us know of Zimbabwe. We know of Zimbabwe because we've had Zimbabweans here playing cricket. We've, as West Indians, we've played against Zimbabwe. We've had persons from St. Kitts visit Zimbabwe. We've had individuals from St. Kitts marry Zimbabweans and so on. But Zimbabwe was renamed Zimbabwe in 1980 upon independence. Before that, it was called Southern Rhodesia. It was called Southern Rhodesia. And if you wish, I can give you a list of other countries in and out of Africa whose names were changed for one reason or another. Some of them to dispense with the link to colonialism. Let's take this caller, see what she has to say. Hello.
Yes, good day, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
On your topic of education, education could be very wide and at the same time still now. But then again, education to what means? Because there must be a means to the madness, it may seem that way. Right? There's an end to it. Now, in terms of colonialism, how many systems there were, like colonialism, that were before colonialism? But we talk of colonialism. Now, we step out from, we're not looking at those that were before. They should be part of the education. Those systems that were unlike colonialism, that colonialism seems to bring, like it might have been the thing. It bring a relief from what was before it. So like, for some people, move on from colonialism to independence, which should bring some form of relief from that colonial era. But some of the colonial things them still come forward into independence. So independent is not the, should we have education? Well, independent is not the final stage of it. This is only another segment of total liberation. Some people may get to that quicker than some, but on a island country level, there's a system almost that is set out to guide it along that way gradually, because the powers there be, that was and still is, does not wish to hand over that total liberation, total freedom to the masses of the people in that way. So, to me, it's like they write a program. They have the program. Well, the stage is, okay, this is the colonial stage, after that independence. After the independence, well, we still say some kind of neo-colonialism thing you hear talking behind here. And then you hear Commonwealth, because the crown, the same crown still exists. And it go on. So what else after this? What is the education to bring about these kind of awareness? And like certain things just don't jump upon you like a surprise, in terms of even to defend yourself to a certain level. Because sometimes the things that the system presenting to you, even though you're in a new era, still feel like, well, if you think about what those before went through, as they were called enslaved, sometimes it's almost like it ain't too far. So how far did their children get from that? I mean, apart from all the flashy stuff and these things with the education that is put forward to make you circulate in that environment. You get what I'm saying?
I'm listening to you, yeah. I'm listening to you. Mm-hmm.
So, education is very wide.
Yeah,
and at the same time still very narrow.
Okay.
You know, so, yeah, me just like you hear about why you vibe all them things there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Of course, as I said before, education is supposed to be a liberating force. Anything that is dubbed education, in my mind, which does not free the individual from certain preconceived notions and from certain established behaviors and norms, anything that is called education, which does not encourage the receiver to engage in new types of thinking and to practice new mores and new norms and new customs and habits, to me is misnamed, is ill-named.